3 true Halloween stories. These stories have been sent in by subscribers or by friends of mine. If you would like to have your story narrated, consider posting it on my subreddit page or emailing it to me. I found a body on Halloween. Sent in by Anonymous. Hi, alright. I'm not sure how much of my story I'm going to need to censor out. I guess you can say Halloween went from being a happy time of year to being one that fills me with dread and anxiety. I hope people don't judge me too harshly, but I guess it is out of my hands. I never thought something like this would ever actually happen. In my street, and in my neighborhood, houses and families compete with each other for who has the best decorations, who gives out the best treats, whose kids have the best costumes, and overall, who embraces it the best. People drive over from different suburbs in order to come and trick-or-treat here, or to check out the houses if they're too old for that. So, around this time of year, there are a lot of people we don't know around at the time. Keep in mind that all traditions are treated with the same amount of fanatical devotion. I've occasionally wondered whether it is a cult I live in. There are plenty of other stories for Christmas and Thanksgiving, etc. But those are for another time, I guess. I was avoiding trick-or-treaters or going to the many Halloween parties around the neighborhood. I love Halloween, but I've been going to these things since I was a child, and I'm now in my late 20s. With the same people, all the time. It may be heresy for some die-hard Halloween fans for me to say this, but I was getting sick of the same thing all the time. The fact my mother insists on me carving out a lot of pumpkins and helping with the decorating always puts me off. I wanted some time to myself, so I stayed home in my room and let my parents deal with any trick-or-treaters who came to the door. I was in my room, listening to music and watching some TikToks, chatting with friends, essentially wasting the night before it was time for me to go to sleep. Outside, there was a lot of talking, music, and occasionally kids would randomly scream. People would pretend to hurt each other, mimicking whatever killer they saw on TV or in a movie. I knew to drown it out and not worry about it. People were having some harmless fun, enjoying themselves, and I didn't need to be awake early in the morning anyway. Time went on. It was late and I could feel myself getting sleepy. I looked at the time and it was just after 3 a.m. I heard a scream that surprised me with how intense it was. It was loud enough to cause me to stop an alarm. I reached for my phone to call the police, just in case. Then I heard some loud, obnoxious laughter, and I guess it was a prank made by some kids. I exhaled, rolled my eyes, and I'm pretty sure I swore about it. I put on my PJs to get ready for bed, brushed my teeth and hair, moisturized, and made sure I did my night routine. It was nearly 4 a.m. when I went downstairs to say goodnight to my parents. They were both curled up watching a movie on the couch. We all said goodnight and I went back up to bed. I went to sleep and woke up around 6 a.m. I sleepily went down to the kitchen, got my coffee, and blended my protein shake with fruit. I sipped it and went outside to get the paper. The street was quiet. Everyone must have been sleeping off the celebrations of the night before. The costumes looked gaudy, almost silly the day afterwards, as people were walking home. I waved at them. The decorations looked silly too. But there was one of a man hanging from a tree that looked real. A lot of people complained in the past about how some of these costumes or decorations were beginning to look too real and started genuinely scaring people. Over the next couple of days, people began to take down their decorations. All the now rotting pumpkins, the giant skeletons, the fake coffins, evil dolls, and a variety of other decorations. All of it had to be put away until next year, when spooky season rolls around yet again. The man hanging was still there, And there was a disgusting smell. It smelled like rotting meat, and the neighborhood dogs were far too enthusiastic to go near it. I think you can guess where this story is going. There are two different opinions about what happened. He ended his life after his marriage fell apart, or his ex-wife hired someone to kill him. Or perhaps it was a drifter, one of the strange people who came in from the outside. I'm not sure which it is. Either way, it is incredibly unnerving that a body was hanging up in my neighborhood for a few days without anyone realizing or doing anything about it. I'm not blameless in this, but yeah. It sends a shudder down my spine whenever I think about it. The investigation is ongoing. But I think in the end, the police believe that the man decided to end his life on Halloween. Why? Well, he took that fact to the grave with him. But it didn't stop people from talking about what might have happened and all that. Halloween is still an event in my neighborhood. The man's passing has become an infamous urban legend. I guess it is based in fact. People are always drawn to the macabre. I would love to say that people change their behavior. Things are still the same, but they always whisper about the man who hung from the tree. Fortunately, no one has been tasteless enough to put out a fake skeleton or dummy to hang from the tree. Halloween Peeper. Sent in by Anonymous. During Halloween, I carve out pumpkins as jack-o'-lanterns and put them by the front door. My family usually end up with several of them, with people making multiple ones. It is fun for the kids and myself, and it is a family tradition we all embrace readily. The kids and I would sit on the front step, carving out the pumpkin, and the insides we use to make a variety of pumpkin snacks to celebrate. We get tasty treats, and nothing gets wasted. By the end of Halloween, I usually get bored with all the pumpkins everywhere. My wife absolutely loves it though. I love making the scary faces, especially the ones with fangs, and the most evil looking eyes you can imagine. I want to get better with my skills when it comes to creating. My wife enjoys taking photos or videos of the pumpkins and posting them on social media. So hey, there's a chance you may have already seen one of my creations. Most of this story is pretty boring, I have to admit. The trick-or-treaters came to the house like usual. The kids look pretty cool. My kids don't like trick-or-treating much. Instead, they love opening the door dramatically and embracing their characters. My daughter plays a creepy old witch and would say, "Hello, my pretties." And my son would dress up as a zombie and would ask people for their brains. Occasionally, when someone he didn't like came to the door, he would walk in the opposite direction, implying the person didn't have any brains. I really need to sign them both up for theater classes or something in the future. Anyway, it was a fantastic night. Soon the massive bowl of candy was gone, and the night came to a close. From what I saw, the last group of trick-or-treaters were on the way home. I curled up on the couch with the missus, while we watched a really camp Halloween movie. I can't remember which one it was. It was nice and warm being snuggled up to her. I wanted a drink and gently had to move her off me. She is so tiny, but weirdly gets so heavy when she is sleeping. I managed to slowly move her off, got up and stretched. I heard my back and all my joints pop. That happens when you get older. Kids, remember to take care of your backs. I wandered into the kitchen to find something to eat. I opened the fridge, drank some milk, and put the carton back in the fridge. I went back to the lounge room and saw something I didn't expect. All the pumpkins we made were at the windows, looking in at me. Most of the candles had already gone out, but for some, there was still a bit of light coming from them. It was so unsettling and weird. I really didn't feel threatened and figured it was probably some kids playing a prank on us. And it was a pretty good one. It scared me a bit. This wasn't what scared me. I went to look for my phone to take a picture to show my family. I had to check a couple of rooms before quickly running back with the camera ready to go. I didn't want to miss it. All the pumpkins were gone from the windows. What the hell? This was so weird. I went outside to the front door, opened it and looked. This time, all of the pumpkins were on the steps, as though they were ready to walk in the front door. They were in a line, like little pumpkin soldiers of doom. It was unsettling, but I couldn't help but laugh at it. It was one of the best pranks I've ever had happen to me. I never found out who did it or why. It still makes me laugh every time I think about it. I wonder whether it was my kids or something. Maybe they do take after me more than I thought. Guy followed us. Sent in by Optimus Prime. I think this happened back in 2003 when we lived in Mississippi. I was around 14 at the time, and my little brother would have been around 9. We had gone trick-or-treating for several years now, and last year, we did a lot of it around our neighborhood by ourselves. I always loved going door to door, and it was even more fun when it was just the two of us. I felt like a grown-up being in charge of my little brother. I was also really looking forward to this year, because my brother and I really enjoyed the movie, Lilo and Stitch, and he wanted to dress up as Stitch. I was really close to my brother, so I decided I would go as Lilo, and make us a cute matching pair as well as an easy costume for me. While I love Halloween and trick-or-treating, I had a sensory issue and still do, so I don't like to wear a lot of things or layers at once. I already had long dark hair, so I wouldn't even need a wig, just a cute red dress really. The problem I had with this year though, was what I was hearing on the news. There had been reports of a couple of kids that had gone missing that were close to my age. I wasn't good with locations, so I don't remember what city this was in exactly. But I do remember that it took place close to us. It honestly scared me, as I realized how many times I was alone. My parents often left me at home with and without my brother when they needed to run to the store or something short like that. I had to walk down the street to go to the bus stop, and my parents wouldn't even be able to see me from the front door. I even rode my bike around the block or down to the little gas station by myself. Hearing these stories of kids coming up missing alarmed me. But my parents didn't seem to think there was anything to worry about. When the new stories came up, my mom would always make remarks about how stupid can you be and criticize the parents and blame them for not watching their kids closely. However, she still told us to walk the block by ourselves, and when I asked if it was okay, she pretty much said, "Yeah, why wouldn't it be? Parents of the year, right?" So we all got dressed up, and I made sure to bring my dad's shop flashlight because it was made of some pretty hefty metal, and I stuffed it in my candy bag. I figured it would be good to have, as both a light source and possible weapon. I also made a mental note, while we were out, to keep a close eye on our surroundings. I was a little nervous since this whole night involved us going to strangers' houses, alone. But because Halloween was also one of my favorite holidays, I was determined to remain vigilant, and also have a good time, so as to not worry or frighten my little brother. We made our way uphill first as there was only 3 houses that way before we rounded the corner. After the turn, there was an empty house, because I remember them recently renovating it. And then the road curved into a cul-de-sac that has 4 houses on it. We went to each one of those, and between just those few houses we had gone to so far, our bags were already feeling pretty full. Between our candy load and how excited my brother was, I was starting to loosen up a bit and have more fun with it. We left the dead end and continued down the road, making our way to a house that had really gone all out. The whole yard was covered in creepy decorations, from a gory graveyard, moving ghosts in the tree, and they even made a path that you had to walk through to get to the door. One guy was even in a Grim Reaper costume, standing still until you walked by and it would scare you. I was surprised that my brother wanted to go through it, and in fact, he laughed after getting scared. When we got to the door, the older couple complimented our costumes and gave us a big handful of candy and asked us a few questions. After chatting some, we left through the other side of the yard and back through the front gate. As we walked a bit, my brother was getting excited about one of the little toys he noticed the last house handed out and started digging in his bag while we walked. He was wanting to carry it with him, but I was trying to get him to stop until we got to the corner where there was better light. Unfortunately, the exact thing I was wanting to avoid happened when we nearly ran into someone in front of us. At first, I looked up to see this tall man wearing some kind of hooded poncho or something. When I think back about this event, I start to realize that I had no idea where this guy came from. There was a small group of kids and adults ahead of us, but they had already moved on and no one had walked by us since we left the house. I suppose he could have been behind us and got ahead when we stopped at the house, but I don't recall ever seeing someone ahead of us. Anyways, I gasped a bit as I headed backwards and apologized to the man. His response to this was saying in a really creepy way, "Oh, it's alright, baby girl. Are you okay?" My parents don't even call me that, so it immediately made me feel weird. So I just said I was fine and grabbed my brother's hand and walked around him. I started feeling like I was being watched, so I looked back and saw the guy still standing in the same spot, now facing towards us. I turned back around and tried to get my brother to speed up, so we could get to the next house. As we left the next one, the poncho guy was standing on the sidewalk right by the house. He was smiling and made a comment about our bags looking heavy and asked if we needed help carrying them. I wasn't very well mannered when it came to being scared or to people who made me feel uncomfortable. So I just said a firm no, as firm and grown up as I could, and again pulled my brother along. I was really starting to become more panicked at this point, wondering what this guy's true intentions were. Surely it wasn't a ruse to take our candy. He was an adult, or at least looked like it, so he could have gotten some on his own. So, if not the candy, what else would he want with young kids like us? It started freaking me out more when I thought about the kids that had been kidnapped recently. Was this guy responsible for them? Was he trying to find a good opportunity to grab us too? I started looking around to see if there were any adults nearby, or even the group of children I saw earlier, thinking we'll be at least safer with them. But even they were gone. My last hope was Miss Martha's house. Martha was an older lady that worked at the front desk of the office my mum worked at. She was very sweet, and always gave my brother and I some sort of treat when we went there with my mum for any reason. She actually lived on the road parallel or behind our home basically, which is also the road we were on. It was a few houses down after the corner. So I started telling my brother that we should go to her house first. He didn't seem to mind, possibly because he was reading the situation too, or he was just getting tired. As we passed the first house, I heard the familiar creepy voice saying, "Hey, you missed one, didn't you?" Before I could say anything though, my brother yelled, "You're being weird!" So I again held his hand and we ran. I was scared this guy would get mad at my brother's comment, although I was glad he said it, and possibly chase us, so I wanted to get there fast. We made it to her house, and I pushed my brother ahead of me as I grabbed his bag from him, and he started knocking on the door. Thankfully, she was home and had a bowl of candy in her arms. I frantically asked her if we could come in, as I looked behind me and didn't see the guy. She, of course, invited us in, shutting the door behind us, asking what was wrong. I started explaining the situation to her, and she said I did a very smart thing by trying to avoid him and going to her home immediately. She gave us both some water, and we watched TV while she went to call our mom. After a short time, there was a knock on the door. I was trying to keep calm, thinking it was Halloween after all, and was thinking it was probably just kids. But when Marsha answered the door, it was the same guy. He tried giving her some story about us being his kids, and apologized for them running in her home. Marsha, knowing our parents of course, told him off, saying he needed to leave as the cops had already been called. I remember his face clearly at this point, trying to look past her at us, and I heard him say, "Oh, I must have the wrong house. Good night," and walked away. She shut the door, but went and sat at the window, presumably watching where he went. It didn't take long for my parents to show up, and then the cops around the same time. We told them what happened while we were out, and described the guy the best we could since it was dark. I remember giving Marsha a big hug before we left, being incredibly thankful she was there, as I would have been shy, just asking some random person to come in their house. As far as I'm aware, the guy was never found, which is terrifying. But sometimes, I still wonder what his intentions were. And could it have been the same guy from the news? Also, we just went home that night from there, and my parents followed us in the car in the following years. I guess at least they agreed to do that. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Please make sure you have an amazing Halloween, and make sure you get some tasty treats. Hopefully you won't have the same encounters that some of these other people had. This video is made with the support of my incredible channel members, patrons, subscribers, and all my viewers. Thank you so much for supporting me. Don't forget to check out my social media links in the description below. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.